Okay, so I'll get started. All right, so thank you for coming to today's Earth Day Pocket Lecture. We've got just a short little presentation today that was put together by staff members Kat and Jenny on some tips that they use around the house to reduce plastic and go a little green. So they're going to share those with you today. It should be about 5 or 6 minutes. And afterwards, we'll also post the video onto YouTube so you can see it, or anyone who didn't make it today can see it. We're also going to be doing some of these later in May, these small little lunchtime mini lectures, so keep an eye on our calendar for those. And we are recording today, but don't worry, we won't be able to see any faces on the recording. So with that, I will turn it over to Kat to give her presentation.
Housekeeping hints for a healthier planet. Instead of picking up a drinking bottle in plastic when you're out and about, you might like to bring a reusable bottle filled with water. Instead of purchasing individually plastic wrapped snacks, you might like to bring homemade snacks in reusable containers. For example, start with frozen berries, add yogurt, store in the refrigerator. Right before you pack it, your snack, top with honey and walnuts. Instead of freezing leftovers in plastic bags or newly purchased containers, you might like to reuse empty yogurt or sour cream, etc. containers. These containers are not microwave safe, but the shape allows for easy slide out of thawing food. Instead of throwing out vegetable and fruit scraps, you might like to add them to a backyard compost pile. And instead of purchasing a new countertop compost container, you might like to use empty coffee containers, the kind with a lid that locks in flavor. If you would like to get fancy and spend some money, you could choose a composter like this for your yard. Instead of throwing away empty bread bags, you might like to use them to pick up litter on the beach. Here's a tip for storing bread bags to keep in your pocket, purse, or your car for litter pickup. Push in the bottom of the bag and then flatten the bag. Roll the bag up from one short end to the other. Fold in thirds, tucking one end into the other to form a neat package. Instead of purchasing several plastic pepper grinders or little canisters of pre-ground pepper, you might like to fill a reusable grinder with peppercorns purchased in bulk. Instead of using a clothes dryer, you might like to use an indoor drying rack. Or to dry clothes outside, pin the clothes in place and put the rack on your deck or patio. With a rack, instead of a clothesline, you can take clothes inside quickly. This is especially helpful when a summer rainstorm appears. Instead of buying replacements for stained clothing, you might like to prevent stains in the first place, well, at least some stains, by wearing an apron when you cook and wash dishes, and maybe even when you eat. Instead of purchasing a plastic bottle with 25 loads of detergent, you might like to buy a small plastic bag with 32 loads of a dissolvable detergent strip. Instead of purchasing 16 plastic gallon bottles of bleach, you might like to buy a smaller plastic container of 32 bleach tablets, one tablet in 1/2 gallon of water. Instead of using an entire dish scrubby pad, you might like to cut the pad into smaller pieces. Instead of purchasing cleaning products in plastic containers, you might like to mix your own cleaner, water and dish soap, and disinfectant spray. Add bleach to mixture. Never mix bleach with ammonia, which produces toxic fumes. You might be pleasantly surprised at how well a gentle cleanser can work instead of disposable scrubbing pads. Instead of aerosol stainless steel cleaner, you might like to mix your own using 12 ounces of water, 1/3 cup white vinegar, and 1/2 cup of rubbing alcohol. Instead of purchasing window cleaner, You might like to fill a reusable spray bottle with 1 part water and 1 part white vinegar from a gallon jug. Instead of purchasing several bottles of foaming hand soap, you might like to refill an old foaming bottle with 1 part Castile soap from a large bottle and 1 part water. Thank you for listening to this little lecture.
Thank you, Kat.
You're welcome.